هناك أشياء كثيرة كانت بعض يكون سيء، بعض يكون متضرر. القتال النساء على سبيل المثال وسيلة تقدم أفضل حتى يمكن تتلبس هذه الممارسات واردة علينا أن نواجه القرارات المختلفة في هذه الدنيا. ساعتين نريد الظل نريد أن نستخدم المظلة وهذا وراء هذا هو الشخص أن يكون وحده ولكن كثير من يكون آخر interdependent behaviors because they are socially motivated. They are لكن هم ولا ليس كل واحد يكون مع هذا يشكل ضمن الأمر مثل أول المسلمين هو نعم سلوك عمره يجب أن even if matter
Daughter, they all agree with it. She is afraid to communicate her thoughts because people may disapprove her ideas. And she is also afraid that if she does not cut her daughter, no one will marry her, so she will be socially penalized. Therefore, despite disapproving female genital mutilation, she will still conform to it in order to avoid social stigma. Social norms are maintained by the reciprocal expectations of the whole community and can be stiffly resistant to change. Therefore, when wanting to end harmful social norms, the most important step is to understand the reasons why people take part and work together to reverse the norm and create positive alternatives. Understanding the dynamics of collective behavior is crucial to promote shared processes of social change.
Incredible. Food for thought, certainly. We need those social norms to bring that change. From our keynote speaker this morning is an individual who has dedicated over 15 years of their lives to the empowerment of women and girls here in Kenya. She worked with World Vision Kenya for 10 years before she joined the government of Kenya as the CEO of the Anti-FGM Board. But possibly most importantly, she is a survivor of FGM. Many of us who stood here have no idea the pain recorded. Can we get our next speaker, Bernadette Loloju, a hearty round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. Habari ya asubuhi. Jambo, for those who have come to Kenya for the first time. Jambo, karibuni Kenya. Welcome to Kenya. How is Kenya? Huh? We say in Kenya mambo ni matatu. Yeah, so I've been introduced by my dear sister, and I'm very humbled to stand here. And this morning, I wear two hats. Mine, as the CEO and DFO board, and at the same time, I'm representing the Ministry of Public Service, Culture, the Arts, Ministry of Public Service, Gender, it's long, Culture, the Arts, and Heritage. Greetings from my Cabinet Secretary, Hon. Aisha Jumwa. Then I'm here representing my CPS, who had been asked by the CS to come here and do the opening remarks. She's also gotten tied up somewhere. So I will read the talking notes from my PS, Miss Anne Wangombe, PS State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. My brother, Dr. Chris Oyeipo from UNFPA, the Deputy Country Representative. My sister, Anna Mutavati, UN Women. The Country Director, Plan International, Jojo Team. Anti-FGM champions here. Government officials, young innovators. Good morning. It comes with immense pleasure, lots of appreciation, and great opportunity for all of us to be part and parcel of this important event, the Harmful Practices Innovation Summit, focusing on female genital mutilation and child marriage. Given the socio-economic impact of the two thematic areas, it is important, therefore, to qualify this summit as a unique and issue-based forum that must be approached from the perspective of responding to gender inequalities and violation of human rights. It is also important to note that the eradication of female genital mutilation and other harmful practices has persistently remained ingrained in our communities despite the presence of sufficient legal, policy, and institutional framework. A lot of work has already been undertaken by the state and non-state actors addressing harmful practices. Therefore, for us to be able to address harmful practices, we need innovative strategies and approaches. The perpetrators of FGM and other harmful practices have consistently devised new ways to sustain their trade. You can imagine for them, they're innovating every day. So what happens to us if we are not innovating? It is for this reason that emerging trends in the perpetuation of harmful practices need innovative approaches. Innovation will give us an edge over the perpetrators. It will also open doors for us to discover new opportunities, drive sustainability, and above all, will make our intervention stronger and more targeted. Innovation in addressing harmful practices will definitely accelerate the abandonment of harmful practices, provide room for measuring progress, and also a framework for knowledge transfer. We are looking at innovation as a tool to improve data collection, enhance our efficiency and effectiveness, improve on law implementation and enforcement of the laws and policies, reporting, sharing, information, and documentation. Innovation will change our attitude and provide a whole paradigm shift of doing things differently. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, the prevalence of FGM reduced from 21% in 2014 to 15% in 2022. I therefore want to compliment all the stakeholders who are implementing FGM interventions for the tremendous progress that the country has realized in ending FGM. However, the 15% prevalence is still unacceptable. The desire and commitment of the Kenya Kwanza government is to realize zero tolerance to FGM. It is on this basis that the Kenya Kwanza government has prioritized the elimination of FGM in Kenya in its plan under the UN Agenda Point 4 that frees, increase funding for the anti-female genital mutilation law and fully implement the anti-FGM law. To reinforce point 4 under the Women Agenda, His Excellency the President, on 5th December 2022, during the launch of the State of the Judiciary report in Nairobi, said that FGM should not be a conversation we are having in Kenya in the 21st century. We must go out of our way, and I assure you of my administration support in ensuring that we eliminate FGM in our country, because it's not only against the law, it is endangering the health of girls. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 theme for zero tolerance was partnering with men and boys to transform social and gender norms to end female genital mutilation. Therefore, cognizant of the position of men in the African state, the voice of men and boys is paramount. They hold majority of decision-making positions and wield overwhelming power at household and community level. They are the gatekeepers of the community culture, and their involvement will definitely transform social and gender norms, thus ending FGM. We heard that this morning from a young lady from Tharaka, who said that if a man says no in his home, there'll be no FGM in that home, because they are the voices and are the gatekeepers of culture. We need, therefore, to devise innovative strategies to bring men on board, to change men's domination into constructive power with other community members to improve the conditions of women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to compliment the team that worked extremely hard to make this innovation summit a success. All our partners who have relentlessly contributed to the elimination of FGM, especially the UNFPA-UNICEF Joint Programme on elimination of FGM. I also want to acknowledge the young people who have spent sleepless nights innovating better strategies to eliminate FGM. This is a demonstration of your commitment to see a just society for all. You are the generation that will end FGM once and for all. Your names will be read in history books as the people who pushed for total elimination of FGM. I appeal to all participants to approach this summit with the seriousness it deserves. Let the objectives and the outcomes of the summit be realized. Give it the best you can. I wish all the participants fruitful deliberations, and finally, I declare the summit officially open. Thank you. And in Kenya we say, Wakenya, pamoja tukomeshe, pamoja. For those who don't know Kiswahili, that means together let us end. Together let us end. And we are just from Dar es Salaam. And when we were in Dar es Salaam, we said, together we can and be the change we want to see. Hiyo ndio tulitoka nayo Dar es Salaam. Be the change that you want, and together we can end. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Bernadette. I'd like to kindly ask that we now have the photo moment for the lounge. And for that, I'd like to invite on stage back again. Lorraine from Alia, Dr. Chris, and Bernadette, the Fadali, come on stage so that we can have this officially launched, the summit, and we'll have so you can just come on stage through the staircase, and then we'll have a presentation, and we can declare it, they can jointly declare the summit launched. All right, so, all right, we can remove the podium. So we'll have a photo moment. So let's just. The champion, the lion is here. The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1, and we can all cheer for the launch of the summit. All right, let's go. Okay. And so let's glue to this. Let's have our eyes on the screens. Thank you. Thank you, dignitaries. You may take your seats.
Wonderful. Now that the summit has been officially launched, we want to segue into a quick panel discussion where we'll be looking at the harmful practices, innovation in terms of limitations, and great opportunities that exist. Allow me to quickly introduce my distinguished panel that will be joining me on stage. We have Bernadette Loloju from the Anti-FGM board joining us. Can we give her a round of applause? We also have Anna Mutavati, Deputy Regional Director for East and Southern Africa UN Women. Kindly join me on stage. Let's give her a round of applause. Joining us virtually is Lydia Zigoma. We heard from her a bit earlier on, the Regional Director for UNFPA East and Southern Region. And last but not least, Glory Charles, an innovator who will be sharing their experience as well. Can we give them all a hearty round of applause and begin? So this session will shed light on both the current limitations and, of course, the future possibilities in the global efforts to eliminate the practice of FGM. And, of course, we'll be speaking to all of our panelists about their respective experience when it comes to this. Bernadette, let me begin with you. Speaking from the government perspective and collaboration efforts and support that's been given to young people so far, what can you tell us has been done in that area?
Good morning again. Ending FGM is like we have to come together. It's a collaborative effort, even within government. That means education, health, interior, and all that, because all that is what we look into. So the Constitution of Kenya Article 17 provides legislative measures, including affirmative action programs, to ensure that there is access, relevant education, and training, have opportunities to associate, are represented, and participate in meaningful social, economic, and other spheres of life. Access, employment are protected from harmful practices and exploitation. The Constitution of Kenya does not provide an enabling environment to the young to thrive and maximize on emerging opportunities without being sidelined by harmful catastrophic sectors. So the government's role on the anti-FGM issue specifically only deals with FGM and fully supported by the government of Kenya has continued our youth development workshops, organizing 25
support
مساندة
campaigning against FGM.
الشباب
For
إن
instance,
هذه
we've had end
من
FGM
خلال
campaigns
الممارسات
on
الرياضية وعلى
creative
مستوى
arts. We have
المحلي،
songs that
وهناك
specifically
أغاني أيضا
focus on
التي
FGM.
تستهدف
We have
هذه
poems by
الممارسات،
children from schools that are
وأيضا
very innovative,
الأشعار
skits,
من
road shows, social
الأطفال،
media
وأيضا
interactions, talent shows, and even
استعراضات
interdisciplinary dialogues. Further, the
التوريث،
board has on
وأيضا
yearly basis
هذه
supported the
اللجنة
Kenya
طبعا
Music
قامت
and cultural
بدعم
festivals so that they are
مهرجان
bringing the
الأغاني
best innovation
لكي
from around
نعطي
level
أي منتج
that have
جديد
come up with an innovative
الذين جاءوا
program
بابتكار
using
جيد في
school
الموسيقى
level so
على
that
مستوى
there's awareness
المدارس،
creation and at the same
وتكون
time
هناك
we are bringing the best
توعية.
innovators. The government has involved
وأيضا
young people by
الحكومة
creating
أيضا
women
تشارك
building platforms for
الشباب
them to be
في
able to
بناء
brilliantly
القدرات
support the end FGM
لدعم
campaign. We have
هذه
launched the
الحملات،
National Youth Advocacy
وأيضا
Network and set
أنشأنا
up the networks up to
لجان
the county level.
على
Most of the
مستوى
counties have the
المحافظات،
youth anti-FGM network.
وأيضا
These
روابط،
networks and the
وهذه
members of the
الروابط
networks also sit on the
وأعضائها
county anti-FGM steering committees.
يشاركون
So we
في
have
كل
given them a platform to
اللجان،
be able to put
وأعطينا كل المنافع التي
their innovation.
يشاركون
The
فيه
board has also engaged youth in various
ويقومون
universities and colleges to create a
بابتكاراتهم.
critical mass of
أيضا في
young people
الكليات
to drive innovative strategies in
يقوم
various
لهم
disciplines of
مساعدة
learning
في
to lead the
مساعدة
campaign so that the young people,
قيادة هذه
especially the university
الممارسات،
students, whether they
وأيضا
come
في
from the
جامعات
communities or not, because
بإمكان
when you grow
من
up and
هذه
you go to the
المجتمعات
university, the
مثلا
first thing that happened to us as
انضمت إلى
academics is that when
الجامعة
you are out there, you are getting
نكون
updates.
في الخارج
We
عندما
had to, like, for me, I only did
بالنسبة
Masai
لي
and Samburu
أنا
because
كنت
I learned
أكون
to
نتعاطى مع
solve
نفسي
problems. And
وصنبور،
that one
لم
put me
أكن
in a cocoon. So what
بنفسي
happens to a
إلى
girl who is a survivor?
وماذا
So we saw
يحدث
that there is
إلى
need to bring the university
البنت
students into
النجيب.
the conversation and the
عندما
college students so
نضم
that when we
هؤلاء
have other
الطلاب
girls from the
إلى
communities that can't go to these universities, the young men from the other communities
الشباب من
understand
مجتمعات
what it
أخرى
means to go through FGM and be able to be
سيفهمون
told.
ماذا
The other day I had
يعني
someone in
هذه
my office and
الممارسة.
they asked me, why did you
وفي
accept the
مرة
campaign? I was
جاء
like,
في مرة
I'm
جاء
sorry, I
وقت
was the other day in my
جاء
office
إلى
and I was
مكتبي
like,
وسألني
we saw this
كيف
FGM thing,
شعرت
but we
لما
wanted
حصل
them to
لي
know
هذا
what they need to do
الختان،
to go to make sure that
وقلت
they
له
do.
قلت له أن هذا من قبل طبعا العائلة.
And then again,
وأيضا في نفس
this
الوقت
morning what
في هذا
happened
الصباح
was
كان هناك
partnership with UNICEF
البرامج
brought these young people to the campaign.
عندما نتعاون
We have
مع
what we call the
يونت.
Pasha app.
عندنا برنامج
Pasha
باشا
stands
أب.
for Passion
بالنسبة
Lives in Fun.
باشا معنا
So we worked with UNICEF, came up with the Pasha app that will help girls to support
تخبير
themselves in their villages.
معلومات
So we have
مباشرة. ما زلنا نحاول
like a
في
process
تطوير
that we
هذا
go through an
البرنامج،
application developed by young people.
وهذا طبعا
So young
قام
people have to fill
بإبدائها
some
الشباب وهم
training
الذين
on how to use the app.
قاموا بتوعية
We have
وتدريب
also
المجتمعات.
created
أيضا
programs
لدينا
to
هناك
support
فجوات كثيرة بما
sharing
يتعلق
information. We realized
بابتكارات،
that
ونشعر أنه
inadequate data
مع
is
قلة
actually
المعلومات لا يمكننا أن نأتي
an example of
بابتكار جيد. مثلا نحن في كينيا في
that in 2022 to get
قائمة البيانات
information
في
on that. So we learned
2014
that it's important for
لا
young people to
يكفي،
think about how do
ولذلك
we
يجب على
use the
الشباب أن
data.
يفكروا كيف
And
يمكننا
then
أن
we have
نحصل على
developed
معلومات
our Pasha
تلقائيا.
app. But in addition to that,
ذكرنا
we
حول
had
بشر،
programs
ولكن
where we had the
كان
Young
هناك
People Innovation.
برنامج أنشئ في السنة
Every young
الماضية
person came with an app that they
حين
developed. And
جاء
we are
شاب.
using primary schools for one week
مثلا لو
using this app. We hope they'll be
لم
sharing
تحضر
during the
بنت
summit how.
يوم أو يومين في
So we
المدرسة،
need to see more innovation on
ويجب
this
أن
app.
نرى
How do we get data
هذه البرامج وكيف
using
يمكننا الحصول على معلومات
innovation? Then on
باستخدام
top
هذه
of the Pasha
الابتكارات.
app, we
وأيضا
have been getting a
ذكرت
lot of
حول هذا
challenges with
نحصل على
reporting.
بعض التحديات في
Our sister from Daraka this morning talked about
آه،
girls reporting at the end. One
زميلتنا
are
من
not sure how to
تركانيت
report it.
ذكرت
You feel as though you are the one who
حول
reported them, and then you will be in danger. They will
هذه
say, okay,
الأمور. لو
report again.
مثلا لو
And
قام
then I see that in
بتبليغ
Kenya we
أمك
have
أو
initiatives. We have that
خالتك،
one. Six, we have the Pasha app,
عندنا
and that one is
برامج
really helping
كثير،
us to get
وطبعا
data
هذه
and to
كلها
report.
تساعدنا
I remember
في
there's a time a girl called
تبليغ
who was
معلومات.
accused
أتذكر في يوم
of
ما
11
كان
million
هناك
dollars
بنت
to say that they are planning to hurt her the next morning.
قامت
And they knew her
باستخبار
best
أنا
friend
في
had paid them
الليل
and they got
كانت
followers
ستعمل
and they were
لها
able to even
الختان.
organize a team to go
ولما
to their home because she gave
هذا
several
حصل جاء
examples. And the best thing
الشرطة
about the Pasha app is
وأنقذوها.
that it gives the girls
وأهم شيء
opportunities as well
بالنسبة برنامج
in terms
بشر
of
يوريهم نفس
home they're
المكان
living.
والمنزل
So
الذي يوجد
the
فيه
apps and also
البنت. أيضا هذا
the
البرنامج
gaps that we feel we have
هناك فجوات الذي أظن نقول يجب أن نضم
Now everything is done from
الموظفون
our homes by
العمال في قطاع الصحة.
medical practitioners. Personally,
أنا
a person that
شخصيا
has
في
education
ابن
is a
عمي
nurse who came
كانت
along
ممرضة
to know that
عجوزة
nurse is
ولم
home at what time. So we also have
وعندما
this
مثلا لو
about an innovation on how
جاء هؤلاء الشباب بهذه
those medical
الابتكارات
practitioners and
يمكننا أيضا أن نشارك هؤلاء
produce
الممرضات لمساعدتنا
I want to
لإحضار
agree with the other
الشهود
participants bringing up
في
so
المحاكم.
here are
أريد أن
the
أسألك
different
سؤال
approaches. So we have
بالنسبة
analytics,
لابتكارات
some of them that the
السميت
government is involved in. But from where you
أن
see that you and
الحكومة
women,
تشارك
what
في
other
هذا.
innovations
ما
can
هي
be
بعض
used to aid
الابتكارات
policing
التي
communities?
يمكن استخدامها على مستوى المحلي؟
Thank you very much, Vicky.
شكرا فيكي.
Good morning.
صباح الخير جميعا وأهلا
I
بكم
hope
إلى
everybody is
كينيا.
safe in Kenya.
أعتقد أنكم تتمتعون بوجودكم في
Let me
كينيا.
start off.
سأبدأ
Let me start by
سأبدأ
giving this a bit of a context that
بوضع النظرية
UN
حول
Women
هذا. أن
Gender Snapshot Report
تقرير
released this year
النساء الذي قام
showed
بنشر
that
هذا
we are not very
العام
far. We
أن
are
في
so
العالم
far away
كله
from
نحن
achieving
طبعا
gender
بعيدين
equality to meet the
حول
2030
حصول
targets on gender
المساواة
equality.
بين
In fact, one report
الجنسين.
actually says
لأن
that the
في
pace
تقرير
that we are
واحد
going
أن
is
السرعة التي
slow
نحن
pace.
نمر
We are
به
going to
نمشي
need
به هي
100, 100 and
بطيئة
200
جدا.
years to achieve gender equality. And
فهذا
I think we
طبعا
all agree that we don't
ستستغرق
have that time
تقريبا
to wait
100 أو
for it.
200 سنة.
So, with that
وهذا
context,
طبعا ليس
the
جيد.
same report also says,
وهذا في
Vicky,
نفس
that
التقرير
our
أنه
region, sub-Saharan
أن
Africa, we are
في
doing quite well
منطقتنا
in
نحن
terms of reducing
حصلنا
female genital mutilation,
أنجزنا
but we are
كثيرا
not doing so
في
well in terms of
إنهاء
child marriage and other harmful traditional practices. So that means that we need
الختان
to engage on that.
والزواج
We cannot continue to work
المبتكر
the same way that we've been working. We
للبنات
need
ولا يمكن
innovation
أن
in other practices where
نواصل
we are.
بالعمل
That's what
مثل
brings
ما
us
نعمل
today
به.
here, because I know our presence here is
وأعتقد
to say
أن
that we
حضوركم
don't have
هنا
200 years to wait
لا يجب
and
أن
we don't have
ننتظر حتى
150 years to
200
wait before
سنة
gender equality is
لإنهاء
achieved.
وأيضا
So with that
التساوي
context
بين
then,
الجنسين. وفي هذا المفهوم
from UN Women, what we have
من
seen around innovation is that we need to anchor
نحتاج
it in the discussion that we had on social norms.
النقاش
We tend, I think, in terms of innovation, we have tended
بالنسبة
to just focus on the act of FGM, the
للتطور
cutting itself, and how wrong it is, and how much it is of a violation of human rights. But at UN Women, we've taken a few steps back and said, how have we anchored the understanding of these practices within a power structure where it is all about
العمليات في هيكل السلطة
equal power relations, right?
يكون هناك طبعا
Between men and
علاقة
women, it is all
بين
about
الرجال
a power
والنساء.
structure that
أن يكون
self-contains
هناك
itself, that
الهيكل
it
السيادي
presents
التي
itself around all of these practices that
تحافظ
we
على
are now
هذه
putting into
الممارسات
service, right?
التي
It's
الآن
all
نقوم
about
بنشرها.
understanding the
وأيضا
social
في
norms
نفس الوقت
and the power that is
فهم
behind those
هذه
social norms. It's
العقائد
all about understanding social
الاجتماعية
practices and
وأيضا
dismantling
كيف
those
يمكن
negative
البدء
social norms and
بالتخلص
then
من هذه
implementing key
العقائد
norms around
الاجتماعية
gender equality and
وأيضا إنشاء
kicking out FGM and
عقائد
other harmful
جديدة.
traditional practices. So it's a
ولذلك
system that I
أعتقد
want to put
أن
together
هناك
all of you
خطة
innovators. If
بالنسبة
you're ready that
كلكم
you come up with
المبتكرون.
these
من
ideas,
الأحسن أن تأتوا
and so
بهذه
on, but
البرامج
without understanding
ولكن بدون
that the
فهم
root cause,
أن
the root cause of this
الأساس
practice is all the way down there.
أنها
And
تأتي
you
من
focus
الأسفل.
to innovate around how do we
فعندما
start dismantling
تقومون
those root
بمساعدتنا
causes, those underlying causes and the
يجب
power structures
أن
and the
تحاول
mechanisms
أيضا
and
في
roots of
نفس الوقت
power
المساعدة
that then give
في
rise to FGM and harmful
تخريب هذا.
traditional practices. I think
و-
we'll continue to innovate and innovate and innovate and
وربما
innovate
سنحاول
without addressing it.
بابتكارات
So
بدون
that my
وصول
fellow
على
innovators
أي
can put together the
حلول
right innovators,
الكافية.
understand and engage and take time
لذلك على
to really go to
المبتكرين
the root
يجب
causes,
أن يمشوا
understand how can
إلى
we innovate
الأساس
to know what we've
لمعرفة
said here in
مفاهيم
Kenya.
في
Allow me very quickly to
المجتمع.
also say that
وخلون أيضا
I
نقول
think the
أنه
idea of innovation is
فكرة
perfect, is
الابتكار
good,
هو
and we are
جيد.
all for new
ونحن
integrative solutions
طبعا
because this could be
نشيد
insane or too
بهذا،
long.
وأن هذه
So
المشكلة
our analysis
طبعا
was also saying that we
كان
cannot
هناك لمدة
always
طويلة،
find
ولكن
innovative
من
solutions
تحليلنا
at individual levels.
لا يمكننا
So the power of
الحصول إلى
collective
هذه
innovation as well.
الحلول
So
على المستوى
brilliant
الفردي،
individual ideas are good and well, but they
و
need to be connected,
ولكن
right?
يجب تكون
So
هناك
now that we are living, we
ترابط،
also have multiple faces and forces
وتكون
that are
هناك
critical. So as part of innovation, the encouragement is
التنسيق،
that can
وأن
we
التشجيع
collect
في هذا
our
يجب أن
ideas together
نجمع
and come up with
أفكارنا
powerful
ثم
solutions? Because
نأتي
the enemy that we are
بالحلول
dealing with is not
القوية
a single legged enemy and it's not standing on one leg. It has multiple legs, multiple faces, right?
لمحاربة هذا
So this also
العدو.
needs for us to collectively
فنحتاج
come
على
together to address it.
التعاون
And lastly, is
لمناقشته.
the issue of data
وأخيرا
that
حول
Bernadette raised.
المعلومات
I
التي
think
ذكرها
as we
بناديت
innovate,
في
let us also
أثناء
understand what
ابتكارات،
the data
يجب
is
أن
saying,
نفهم
right?
ماذا تعني هذه
The
البيانات،
solution, can it be
وهذه
informed by
الحلول
data?
هل
And
هي
also, we've just had
مركزة على هذه
examples here how
المعلومات.
as Kenya we moved from 32%
رأينا
in,
كيف تخطى
in
كينيا
2010
من
down to
نسبة
21% in 2014,
38
down
إلى
to 15% in 2022.
21 إلى
Brilliant. But
15
then
في
the data is also saying
2022.
that
ولكن في نفس
even though
الوقت
we are saying
هذه
15%
البيانات
is the national prevalence, right?
هذا على
But
المستوى
when you
الوطني،
unpack that
ولكن
15%,
عندما
you have communities
تنظر،
that are actually
هناك
practicing
بعض
100% of
المجتمعات
female
ما
genital mutilation.
زالت
So does that
تمارس
mean to you? I
هذا
mean, like, are
الختان.
you aware of the data?
هل
And therefore,
أنتم
in your innovations, how
تفهمون
can they
هذه؟
also go?
كيف
That's
يمكن
very
هذه
unpacking the data
الابتكارات
and helping us communicate
اللي
so that everyone becomes aware that
م-
as we are celebrating
لتقديم
15%,
هذه
there are communities
المعلومات،
that are still doing this 100%.
مع
And
أن
then also, of course,
في
how can
نفس
we then
الوقت
engage
كيف
around
يمكننا
solutions in
التعامل
those particular
مع
communities by
الحلول
understanding better
في
what
تلك
is driving the
المجتمعات التي ما
100%
زالت
and therefore what we need to do.
تقوم بهذه
So those are the three
الممارسات.
challenges I would like to
فهذه
pose to
من
the
ضمن
panelists today.
التحديات
Thank you.
التي
Thank you so
لدينا.
much, Anna.
وشكرا
Fantastic
أنا
points you've raised, and
على
I'd like to bring
نقاطك
Lydia
الرائعة.
in on that
أود أن
point.
أرحب
You've heard
بليدي.
Anna talk
طبعا
about
سمعت
anchoring anti-aging
حول
efforts in social norms, using
وضع
data really
هذه
to address the
العقائد
issue of
في،
FGM. But how do we make
وكيف
these solutions and
يمكن
interventions
أن نستخدم
sustainable,
هذه
right? So everyone
الحلول أن
has
تكون
different ideas in terms
مستدامة
of addressing maybe a short-term problem, but
لمخاطبة
sustainability is
هذه
something that will
المشاكل.
continue it on from generations. So from your perspective, Lydia, how
ومن
would you say would help
رؤيتك
with that?
ماذا سيساعد في
Thanks very much.
استمرار
It's a
واستدامة
privilege to
هذه؟
be on the panel.
شكرا
Very
جزيلا أن
excited to
أكون على
see
هذه
Professor
اللجنة.
Anna here on the panel. In terms of your question, I
بالنسبة
would say that
لسؤالك أود أن أقول
there are a
أنه
number of things we need to look at for
هناك
sustainability
عدة
that
أشياء
has
التي
to
يجب
bring
أن ننظر
together.
إليه،
I think one
وسأذكر
is
بعض منها. واحد
there has to
منها
be a commitment
هو
from those of us who are
يجب أن تكون
supporting
هناك
the
التزام
ecosystem
بالنسبة الذين
to
يقومون
create
بإمداد
the
هذه
environment for
لخلق
innovators to thrive
البيئة
and actually
السعيدة
be able to get to scale.
لحصول
So I think
لتخفيف
we
هذه الأمور.
did a number of
بالنسبة
things like
UNFPA نحن
innovation,
قمنا
and we
بأمور
demonstrated to
مختلفة،
others
وطبعا هذا
what we could
سيكون
do
إشارة
to support
لآخرين
innovation at scale and for sustainability. I took some
ولتكون هناك
steps
استدامة،
around
وواحد
strategies that we
منها
decided to take.
هو
So we took a strategic
سبل.
approach to actually look at innovation and also
خطة
digitalization as
استراتيجية
accelerators.
في خطة ما
Accelerators
يتعلق
to achieving our own goals
لتيسير
and the goals that we have.
والحصول على
So
الأهداف
with support in contribution of
التي
the
كنا
achievement of the
سنقوم
sustainable development goals.
بدعمها.
So I do think there has to be
في
an actual commitment, either at
يجب أن تكون
regional level,
هناك التزام على
federal level, or
مستوى
government level, whichever place you're talking
المنظمي
about,
أو
either within
محلي،
the donors, to actually say this is a
وحتى
strategy that
في
we're adopting, and therefore we want
الهيئات
to
المانحة،
support these
وليس
innovations
فقط
as
لدعم
ideas and
هذه
concepts in
الابتكارات
general,
والأفكار
but all the
والمفاهيم،
way through to actual
ولكن
application at scale.
مع
And that
تنفيذ
means the
هذه.
point
وهذا
that
يعني
one of
أن
the other speakers
كما ذكر
around the
واحد من
multi-stakeholder
المتحدثات
partnerships,
أن يجب أن
around that
تكون
topic. What
هناك
we have done is we
أصحاب
effectively
متحدد
tried to
المصالح
look at how we take
الذين
innovations to scale and for sustainability through three
سيقومون
approaches. So one was
بتبني
with
هذه.
we were part of a
رأينا
study with the Joint
كلاب
Programme on FGM, in 2020.
فهناك
And it was building
شريطة
also on looking at what was
وطبعا
happening
كانت
during COVID.
بين حول ما
If you
كان
notice
يحدث
during
في
COVID times,
وقت
young
كوفيد.
people themselves responded
الشباب
to
طبعا
issues
لبوا
around
إلى
gender
بعض
identity
المشاكل
as
التي
well as
كانت
family
تنشأ
issues in their
حول
communities.
العنف
And even looked
الجنسي
around
في
mental health,
مجتمعاتهم،
sexual
وأيضا
reproductive health
حول
information
أيضا
and
أمور ما
services
يتعلق
as very
بالتناسل
important.
والمعلومات
So
في
they worked
ذلك.
around setting up
وطبعا
platforms where they would
قاموا بإنشاء
connect
المنصات
young people with the
المختلفة
right
لربط
information to build
الشباب
they looked at
وتوفير
engaging
المعلومات
vulnerable victims of
وأيضا
domestic violence with services and the
المتضررين،
justice system. So we
وأيضا
also need to build
النظام
movement that's already happening
القانوني،
amongst young people and
وننظر
innovators themselves.
إلى ما يحدث عند الشباب ونسألهم بإتيان ببعض الحلول والأفكار.
building on what was happening during COVID. And it identified
وطبعا قام بتعيين 109
went through processes of
حلول من دول
developing
مختلفة.
their
وطبعا كان
ideas
هناك
and solutions
الإجراءات
to the various
كثيرة حول
challenges
هذه السلوك،
evaluated.
فكان هناك
And
تقييم،
8 winners
وأخيرا
were selected to present
كان
their
هناك
innovative solutions
9
at
من
the final
المبتكرين
event at the International
في
Conference on AIDS,
نهاية
Diseases and Infections in Africa, ICASA, in Durban,
التي كان في
And
قاموا
following that,
بتقديم ابتكارات في
four
دابن جنوب أفريقيا، وأربعة من هؤلاء. وطبعا الابتكارات الفائزة
again that issue of
طبعا
we
هذا طبعا يأتي بنا إلى أفكار حول
partner called AfriLabs.
كيف
So we then
يمكن
worked in research
إنشاء
to
ومساندة هذه
innovations and
بعد
solutions
الفوز.
through a process with seed funding of about 70,000
ويكون هناك عملية
capital and business support services.
وتم تمويل هذه
How they would
هؤلاء الفائزين بسبعين سبعين ألف دولار. وأعتقد أن هذا طبعا أسلوب جيد وما زال سيقام في هذا العام، ونرجو أنها سيعزز وسترفع معونيات. أيضا في 2022 أيضا كان نفس الأمور التي اتخذ حول التفادي FGM، وهذا ينظر خاصة حول مراكز لإنشاء وابتكارات. وطبعا كان هناك تقديم كبير جدا من الشباب من عبر الإنترنت، تقريبا 300 شابا قاموا بتقديم، و31 طبعا نجحوا، ثم بعد ذلك قام بتصفية آخرين حتى حصل 9. فهذه الحلول طبعا تكون لأفريقيا، وهذا طبعا الفائزين 9 طبعا قاموا بتقديم مشروعات في نيروبي، ويقوم هناك دعم لهم لمعرفة كيف يمكن استخدام هذه البرامج لنجاح 62 مشروع حصلوا على $1000. وطبعا هذه بعض من النماذج لهذه البرامج التي نقوم بدعمها لتخفيض هذه المشاكل. وأود أن أذكر أيضا في نفس الوقت أن هناك شباب المبتكرون نقوم بربطهم بما يحدث. واحد من المجال التي نرى فيه فرصة هو حول الاعتناء بالنفس، لأن حقوق التناسل كيف يمكن إدارة هذه. طبعا هذا يمكن التعامل معها من اعتناء نفسي، وهذا طبعا هذا يكون الحقيقي. في بيوت وفي شراكة مع المنظمات العامة. يكون أكثر من 60 برامج التي يمكن في تنفيذ هذه المشروع لكي تساعد على التناسل. وطبعا هناك نماذج كثيرة، فنقول أن نحتاج إلى أصحاب المصالح متعددين يجب أن يشاركوا في ذلك ودعم هؤلاء الشباب المبتكرون لكي يفهم أفكارهم ويكون هناك في تلك المجموعات. طبعا هناك بعض الأشخاص الذين هم كانوا متضررين ولذلك كانوا يأتون بهذه الأفكار لمساعدته. وأيضا عندما ننظر حول كيف يمكن ننظر إلى مجالات مختلفة حول إثناء النفس وربطها بمنصات الإلكترونية، وقد أقول يمكننا أن نقول هذه بعض المساهمات التي يقوم به. وطبعا يحتاج إلى مفهوم حول الختان وأيضا الزواج المبكر، وعلى الحكومة أن تساهم في مساعدة في ذلك. شكرا جزيلا ليديا. طبعا هذا رؤية جيدة، وننظر إلى هذه المراكز الابتكارات. جلوري طبعا سميت حول الشباب يبتكرون ما لا يتوقفون، وأنت كنت واحد من اللجان وكنت تريد أن تكون من واحد من أصحاب الحلول. سميت حول الفجوات من بنديت. وبالنسبة لك ما هي الفرص التي يمكن للشباب يستغلوها؟ بالنسبة لي كممثل معظم هناك فرص كثيرة التي نحن نراها. واحد أن تكون هناك مشروعات مركزة على الشباب، ورأينا مثلا في بلان انترناشونال هي تشارك الشباب، أيضا البرامج الشراكية حول الشباب و UNFPA، وكل هذه تركز على الشباب. وطبعا هذه تدفعنا إلى الأمام لتعطينا الفرصة لنكون من ضمن الفريق التي ستقوم بحل هذه المشاكل. ومع نهوض التكنولوجيا طبعا هذه المراكز الابتكارات طبعا تساعد في تيسير وتسريع هذه وتبادل المعلومات، وبذلك تعطينا فرصة. يجب أن نفهم من نحن، وليس فقط بأننا لدينا أفكار جيدة لحل أي مشاكل. فهذه الابتكارات تساعدنا في فهم والتمشي في مجالات مختلفة. أنا في خبرات شخصية كان لدينا أفكار جيدة، ولكن كيف يمكننا تنفيذ هذه الأفكار؟ وواحدة من الأشياء التي تريد هو تفكير حول هذا المنتج إلى المجتمع. وواحد من هذه المشاكل التي ننظر إليها هو الاستدامة. فبدأنا هذا السفر في 2018 واستغرقنا تقريبا 3 سنوات، وبدأنا نتساءل كيف سيمكننا دعم هذه البرامج عند عدم التمويل. وهذه المراكز الابتكارات طبعا ساعدنا كثيرا لأننا قمنا بمعرفة بعض القوانين. وأنا من مجال طبي في تنزانيا نسميه TRA، السلطة المراقبة. لم أكن أعرف كيف أقوم بملء الضرائب، وتعرفت على معلومات كثيرة، وطبعا هذا ساعدني لنهض المجتمع. وطبعا هذه أيضا المسابقات ليس فقط لم تقوم بمساندنا برأس المال، ولكن حصلنا على أيضا الشبكات حول الأشخاص لديهم أفكار متشابهة مثلا من تنزانيا، وممكن ألتقي مع واحد مبتكر من كينيا أو نيجيريا، ويمكننا الجلوس معا ونأتي بهذا التي ستساعدنا. وهذا كان أيضا واحد من الفرص. وأخيرا توفير المعدات. لم نرى هذه ما بنت يمكنها أن تقول لنا طبعا أساليب مختلفة من 1990 حتى الآن. هي رأت أشياء كثيرة، وبالنسبة لي يجب علي أن نتعلم أين كانت نقاط الضعف والقوة لمعرفة كيف سنقوم بالحلول لإنهاء هذه. فوجود هذه الآليات ستكون بمساندة كبيرة، ويمكنني ابتكار جيد، وهذا ما عمل في 10 سنوات الماضية، ولكن الآن يمكننا أن نعمل بهذا الأسلوب بطريقة مختلفة لتخفيض هذه الأمور. فكل هذه الفرص التي ذكرت طبعا ستساعد، ونحن نشكر أنه حان الوقت أن الشباب انضموا إلى هذه النقاشات. يمكنني أجلس مع بنديت نقول أن كفاية. وعندما نذكر أن تقريبا أكثر من 60 مليون بنت سيقوم ختانهن، فيجب عليهن أن يستغلوا هذه الفرصة لكي نسرع لتجنب هذه. فإن لو تأخرنا، إن كنا نريد أن ننهي هذا الموضوع، فطبعا هذا يأتي على كل شاب لاستغلال هذا وتعاون وتحسين
Oh, fantastic. Everyone
لمجتمعنا.
deserves a round of applause.
وشكرا جزيلا.
I really like how she casually dropped that she's a medical doctor. I should be calling you Dr. Glory. As we wrap up, we'll do a round of questions. But, Bernadette, let me come back to you because you were talking about some of the existing gaps. Of course, some of the gaps with the Pasha app and other innovations or solutions that the government has come up with. But I really want to zero in on the issue of culture, because we know that's the biggest. I've covered several events. You can go to a place like Kajiado, for instance, and the local politician will pick up the mic and speak against FGM, but we know his daughters are being cut, right? So how do we deal with, literally infiltrate culture to address it from that level?
When we look at culture, it's a way of life, and people believe they are the right people. It's good because Dr. Gloria, you allow us to call you that, has talked about us who have seen it all, like we've been there. We've seen it all, like we are going into our age. When you age, you also have wisdom and you've seen more, even though our young people are the ones who also help us now to think better. We might have used some strategies that have not worked or have given us 2% or 10%, a drop, but we need more strategies that can accelerate. So when it comes to culture, like today, you as Victoria goes to the community, the way you are dressed with your specs and with your high heels, and the girls out there in the village will just be looking at you. They'll be looking at you, and they, you know them, they believe you've also been cut. And if you tell them you're not cut, the first thing they'll do is get shocked, even the women. Like, do people exist who are not cut? Yeah, so culture is so ingrained. And when it comes to culture, how do we infiltrate, as you have said? How do we make sure that there's attitude change? I was asking a researcher yesterday who is trying to sub-analyze the KDHS data for us to be able to see exactly what are we looking at. As my sister Anna has said, some communities are still at 100%, some communities are at 95%, even though we are talking of a drop, but there are communities that are still very high. So I was asking the researcher, according to the KDHS 2022, it shows that the awareness among our communities on the fact that FGM is against the law and that FGM has effects for our girls and women is more than 90%. Then why are we not having the same, 90% awareness? Why are we not having, again, more than 90% attitude change? And why is someone deciding to cut their daughter at night because they fear the law? Yeah, so at the end of the day, the attitude, how do we deal with that? I know you have asked me that question, but mine has been, who can protect their child more than their mother? Who else can protect a child more than their mother? As a mother, you always, your mind is always 100% on how is your child, is he getting hurt or something. But can you imagine on FGM, it's your mother and your grandmother and your aunties who are women who push for you to get cut, and they're there to make sure you get cut. And they tell you it's something good that is going to happen to you. Then you realize later that it was nothing good. So how do we bring the conversation of the survivors? How do we bring the survivors into the conversation? Because it's only a woman who is cut who cuts her daughter. Yes, it's only a woman who is cut who cuts her daughter. A woman who has not gone through FGM would never think about that. Yeah, they would never think about it because it's not in their culture. It's not in their way of life. But the only women who cut their own daughters, who pass the culture to their own children, are the mothers who have been cut. So how do we innovate for the mothers who have been cut themselves to show that the trauma you're going through should not be passed on to your daughter? Even if your own mother or your grandmother was cut, then you do not have to pass that to your own children. Then again, the men, what men tell us is that my mother was cut, my grandmother was cut, and I saw nothing wrong with that. So where was the man? Was the man putting on the grandmother's shoes or the mother's shoes? Does the man realize what the mother went through? Do you think my son today knows what I have gone through even while giving birth to him? Because when I was giving birth to my son at 19, I went through a traumatic experience in the labor room where the nurse asked me, who did this to you? When the baby was coming out, stop pushing because you will get tears. How am I going to push and the baby is here? You are supposed to do an episiotomy. It's an emergency. The baby is coming. Can you ask the questions after you have received the baby? But she did not ask those questions. She did not take charge immediately. The question she was asking, who did this to you? How do you ask me in the labor room when the baby is coming, who did this to you? Is that a question to ask me? The same question has happened not only to me, but to other women who, even some of them, died at the labor because someone did not even understand what FGM is all about. I don't blame them. I don't blame that girl who did that to me when I was 19. Maybe she was ignorant. Now that I'm here, maybe she didn't understand. Maybe that's not the way she was trained to handle a mother who has gone through FGM. So there is a lot also that we can do with the survivors, the mothers who have been cut themselves, because they're the ones who know. But one thing about the mothers who have been cut, they will always argue with you that it has no effect on them. Yeah, I did my research in Tanzania among the Arusha. And every time I did my focus group discussion with the Ngaribas, I know they know Ngariba. Ngariba is the mother who helps and when you're giving birth, and the same Garibas are the ones who cut. So the Garibas would tell me, I don't know what you're telling us. We've given birth to 10, 12 children. We have not had any problem. We have not died. We are here telling you the story. So, they will always come back to you with the same. So how do we innovate around? How do we deal with mothers who have already gone through FGM and should not pass the same to their own daughters? Because if every mother who has been cut does not cut their own daughter and protects their own daughter from female genital mutilation, I can assure you this will be history as soon as yesterday. As soon as yesterday, if every mother in these communities is made to understand that you're making harm to your daughter and this is how your body looks like. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not going so much into innovation, but telling how it is. But women themselves don't understand how their bodies look like down there. So by the time you grow, you don't even know you are cut. Maybe the men know how they look, because men, when they are in the village, when you're in the stream down there, you know. And when they get circumcised, for them, it is a community conversation. But as a woman, you are made to not even discuss anything to do with you. So you never know how you look. And so even as you grow up, you never understand, why was this done to me? Because even me, when I was done FGM, when I was healing, during the healing period, I asked myself, why did they do it to me? Does it mean I have something else I need to do that is beyond what they've already done to me? So how do we bring the mothers? I want to challenge the innovators. How do we bring the mothers fully into this conversation? Because women are the lead perpetrators. Men are never there when the women are getting cut. Every time we show men what it means to cut a woman, men get completely shocked. And they say, we don't want this to happen to our own daughters. So how do we bring the women into the conversation? They are the holders of the culture. They are the men are the gatekeepers, but the women are at the middle of the culture.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bernadette, for opening our eyes on that issue. And certainly it needs to be tackled. Anna, let me come to you. In terms of other existing innovations that have been used to address other forms of GBV, how can those be, in a sense, translated now to respond to FGM?
Thank you very much, Vicky. If you allow me maybe 1 minute of my time to just also pick on the response from Bernadette to your question. So I would like to also suggest that Dr. Gloria mentioned this, that as innovators, we're not just starting from now and here going forward, right? We also take time to learn what has worked before. How did it work? What did they do? And then we build onto that. So I think there's a whole learning that can come from the whole issue of HIV and AIDS. Yeah, I think there was a lot of innovation around there, targeting behavior change, targeting even social norms and cultural norms. Some people who thought that they could not manage with one partner, but they had to change, right? So perhaps also learning from not just in the space of FGM, but what we are calling also the triple threat here in Kenya, where we are looking at HIV, where we are looking at teenage pregnancy, and where we're looking at sexual and gender-based violence, including FGM. So it was just something to add to that. But to your question, in terms of lessons that can be applied here, I have 3. I'll go quickly through them. One is Lydia spoke on the issue of sustainability, which you also brought. And what we have learned from UN Women is the need to establish dynamic partnerships with private sector, because private sector can be the cradle for most of the ideas that you have, and for advancing them, and for using their platforms also to reach a wider base, and also for developing some of your ideas even further. So I know Lydia mentioned some of the partnerships with private sector. From UN Women, this is something we have learned. And we have also had an innovation or two with private sector. One is one that I would like to share is what we call the Unstereotype Alliance. So here we are working with private sector to say you are driving a lot of commerce using advertising, but that advertising, have you taken time to see how it perpetuates negative gender norms and practices? Some of your advertisements, right? Ads, as we call them, that are all over social media, on TV and radio and everywhere, newspapers, they are actually perpetuating stereotypes against women, right? Harmful stereotypes, harmful norms. And so when we took some of them, I think you can also think of 1 or 2 adverts that you say, but that one is not consistent, right, with what we are trying to promote here. Because the idea is that FGM doesn't just happen a whole lot of a system of beliefs, a system of stereotypes, practices, and norms, right? And then it emerges as FGM, right? So it's important, therefore, in what we've learned with private sector to engage so that we look at the whole ecosystem that gives birth to practices such as FGM. Underneath that is gender equality, unequal power relations, abuse of that power, and so on. So that's one lesson we've learned by partnering with private sector, using their platforms, but also helping open their eyes because they have a huge following, right? We are all consumers of what they produce. So if we leverage their spaces, we also tend to reach much higher numbers of people, but also ensuring that we are changing them in the process, not just to use their platforms, but that they become true partners that we can partner with in this journey. The second lesson we've learned is on, I think something that Dr. Gloria mentioned and my sister here, Bernadette, also mentioned, and Lydia. It is about involving or working with the people that are affected by the problem themselves, right, in this innovation. So we can't try always to do it for them. We have to innovate with them. And where we can, even give them the spaces to lead in some of these spaces, right? Because who best, who knows when to take off the shoe, but that person who is feeling the pinch from the shoe, right? So I believe there's lots of information, tons of information that we can get. And then that point I made earlier about this strategic partnership. So it's not just my idea, my innovation only, but how can I make it stronger by partnering with fellow innovators, but also where are the people that are informed and involved and affected by this, and how can they innovate? I mean, how can they innovate together with me? So at UN Women, we've done this, or we are doing this through our innovation called African Girls Can Code initiative, and it's in partnership with the AU. And we are working with girls from very, very underprivileged communities, and they are coming to learn about coding. And when we explore what areas, for example, they would like to pursue, some of these the issues are also coming up. So I think it's also about cross-fertilizing those ideas, your ideas, brilliant ideas with their lived experiences as well. Last but not least is the issue that the lesson that we've learned, partnership with government, and where government takes ownership and leads on some of these innovations for sustainability, as Lydia also mentioned. And we have an example that we have supported the Office of the Chief Justice in Kenya to develop this database, right, which will enter all the names of convicted sexual offenders, right? So an active database. So if I'm sitting in Kajiado, I'm sitting in Migori as a magistrate, I'm sitting in wherever, Turkana as a magistrate or as a judge, and somebody has just been convicted, I run through that database to see if they are a repeat offender, and then their penalty gets, tougher because they are not learning anything. But also, if this database, and this is where we want to go to next, if this database can also be made public, right? So that even employers get to know, you want to hire so and so as your system software administrator or engineer, they are on this list of sexual offenders, so to keep away from them. That can also help in terms of deterrence, right? Because if it's hitting where your livelihood is, you are bound to make certain changes yourself, and it is also a key message, a strong message to other offenders that are planning to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, and Rich, some of the solutions that UN Women is already involved in. Lydia, briefly, I'd like to hear from your end, the UNFPA side, in terms of existing initiatives that are already leveraging on innovation. We heard from Anna about the database and girls who can code, but what is UNFPA doing from your side?
So, as you know, we work particularly on issues of population and demography, and also on sexual and reproductive health and rights. And we work on both of these areas. So, the way in which innovations are being leveraged in this space, I think I mentioned one already, which is now linking with other areas of sexual and reproductive health and rights. Because, as Anna rightly said, we've got to look at the ecosystem within which some of these harmful practices are taking place. And as we look at that ecosystem, one of the things I think that I've been struck by, and I think it also links to the point that Bernadette was making around, and I think I mentioned it actually in the opening, was around the correlation between issues of education, women's education, and the practice of FGM, for instance, and other harmful practices. So if we start to also understand what's actually happening within the dynamics of how people are living within their communities and what they have access to and don't have access to, it begins to make the linkages with why certain traditions continue and persist in certain communities and why not in others. So this issue of women's education, I just wanted to point it out because that struck me as a statistic that the more you have women who are educated, even just up to primary level, the less you see the prevalence of FGM within their families. So I would also say that one of the things we need to leverage on is the initiatives around just increasing women's literacy and education. In that regard, when I was in Mozambique a few weeks ago, one of the things that women in internally displaced camps said to me was one of the things they most appreciated around what we're doing around their sexual reproductive health and rights, access to maternal health care for the pregnant women and also those who've just given birth or during the birthing process, was also that they were accessing literacy. They actually saw that as one of the most important things, not just for sustainability, but for women's empowerment. So I think we must also continue to fight for the increase of just women and girls' education. In that respect also, as I mentioned in COVID-19, one of the things we saw was how then technology and digital technology and innovations in particular became a platform for also accessing sexual and reproductive health and rights information, but also linking survivors of, at that point, they're probably still victims of violence, including FGM and potential child marriage, to services and to the justice system. So these platforms of digital transformation and innovation become also possible routes by which those who are innovating in the areas of FGM can link up. And therefore, I think it's also understanding that innovations can be in terms of processes, they can be in terms of services, and they can be in terms of the way technologies. And all of those are worthwhile innovations to invest in, but they need to also build on how we are encouraging women and girls to understand their own bodies better, which is the whole purpose of sexual reproductive health and rights, bodily autonomy, my body, my rights, my choices. And the more they begin to understand that aspect of their life, which has been taboo for many generations, the more they can take the power into their own hands. So to me, I think we cannot disassociate or delink the issues of innovation and technological advancements and digital transformation from the issue of women and girls empowerment, social empowerment, but also economic empowerment. And the more we link across the two, the better.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lydia. We are just about out of time, but let me bring in Dr. Glory just to wrap us up, because a very important point Lydia has raised about innovation. It's not just the technology part, it's processes, it's services. So you're looking at a huge ecosystem, if you will. So even as you're innovating, some of the challenges when it comes to plugging into all of those points, data points, if you will, as you come up with solutions.
Okay. So to wrap it up, among strategies that we can use as innovators to making sure that whatever we innovate for is beneficial for our community. I'll first start with the point that Madam Anna emphasized on before, on the use of impact measurement and data-driven solutions. This is to put a nail on what Madam Lydia has finished on saying. That is, as we innovate, we should really understand the key things that we are supposed to innovate around. That is, we should not just innovate around the use of technology. How about the process? How about the service? And also, how are we using these innovations to link these multisectoral faces that are coming together to put an end to these harmful practices? How are we linking provision of services to the survivors and their legal fairness? How can we provide them with, for example, most of them suffer from psychological torture for many of years from the practice. So how are they getting the psychological relief and also getting the legal aids? And this is not just for female genital mutilation, that goes to early and child marriage too. That is, how can we bring all this together? And also skills development, because for innovators, you may start with one skill, but as you grow, you come to understand that you need to um, diversify your skills. And diversification of skills does not just come from hiring people with technological know-how, because we are also crying day in and day out about the funding. So how are you, as an innovator with a small team, diversify your skills to make sure that you know more, you acquire more skills and you develop the skills that you have been had before. And far as skills development goes, is not just on the technological know-how of your solution, but also the know-how of the people that you're innovating for. That you know, for a community in this particular area in Kenya, they need a solution around processes. But for this part of Nigeria, they need a solution around technical use. So we should be able to diversify our skills and develop them in order to make sure that we meet the needs, not just for the team, but also for the community. Another thing comes from persistence and resilience. Um, by experience, I know that the road gets very turbulent, not even before receiving the funds or the grant, but the days after. After you have used maybe 75% of that fund into building up your solution. And now you start to wonder, how am I to deploy this solution to the community? That on this particular year, this particular organization was here to hold your hand, but that program has phased out from the institution. How are you going to survive? How are you going to survive waiting for that prize fund to arrive into your account? That is one very big challenge for most innovation. That is around not just sustainability, but also persistency and resilience, because much as we are praised to be good innovators and bringing up solution, we are also known to, today we are innovating around this and tomorrow we are innovating around another thing. So today we are on harmful practices, but tomorrow when UNFPA is not here, we are going to run around climate solutions because it's where the funds are. But we are supposed to be resilient and to persevere even in those hardships. And another thing is also going around funding diversification, that as young innovators, are we just sitting down and waiting for grants announcement to come? Or are we really even innovating on how we are diversifying the ways to make sure that we are becoming sustainable? So we are supposed as innovators to come with solution for various areas that we are in, both for our communities and also for our innovations as well. Are we growing? Or today it's the same pitch that we have and we are the same an year to come and we are the same 5 years to come. So takeaway for me and my fellow innovators would be that we have to leverage on the opportunities that we are having, but we have to work at a faster rate, because doing that is how we are becoming more sustainable and how we will persevere in the conditions. Because just imagine the practice that have been persevering for over 40 years and is still perpetuated to today. Why not our solutions being perseverance enough to making sure that we are moving at the same pace? Last but not least, I would say we should not be afraid to learn and iterate. That today, I thought having a mobile app would be the solution for theoretically in Tanakaniti region, but after doing your research and data tells you that these women in Tarakaniti region do not have phones, do not have mobile phones where they can report these incidents. So how are we innovating around that? Are we going just to let them aside and innovate for the ones with mobile apps? How are we going to reach the areas that have zero technological advancement? Because those areas still do exist. also innovate about them, because we might find out from data that it's within those communities with zero technological advancement where FGM and other harmful practices are practiced to 100%. So much as we'd want to move with the faster pace of technological advancement, how about the ones that are not privileged enough for this? How are we reaching them? How are we holding their hands? How are we making sure that even them in their interior and marginalized areas are also free from these harmful practices?
Well said. Can I get a round of applause for my panel? Mama Bernadette, as you've been called by Dr. Glory, Anna, thank you so much, and Lydia joining us virtually. Wonderful insights. You may take your seats. Thank you. Let's give them one more round of applause as we transition. So we're about 5 minutes out to 12 noon. We are slightly behind schedule, but I want to make a few housekeeping announcements before we leave this room, because we won't be coming back for some time. So we're going to have a photo session. All the delegates, keynote speakers outside, but Charles will take us through that a bit later on. Tea break will be served just outside of the room, and we'll give about 20 minutes or so for tea and for the photo session. And then, of course, we can head into the breakout sessions, which I'll take you through really quickly. Remember, you can also get that information by scanning the QR code that is on your conference tag. All information will be there. So if you are interested in promoting feminist activism in technology and digital spaces, that will be in Mount Kenya Room D. Mount Kenya Room D. If you're interested in learning from social movements, deployment of innovation, that will be held at Mount Kenya Room C. And if you want to hear about innovation to advance bodily autonomy, women's rights, and SRHR, will be in the pavilion. These sessions will be running up until 1 p.m. 1 p.m., of course, will start off our lunch, which will be at the Nyama Choma Ranch. Any of the hotel staff or the crew from UNFPA can guide you there. So that will be from 1 to 2 p.m. After that, and that's why it's really important that you are able to scan the QR code to get that information. There'll be 2 more breakout sessions. Those will be running from 2:05 to 3:30 p.m. Mount Kenya Room D will be tackling attracting critical early stage investment, finance for social enterprises in emerging markets. And happening in the pavilion will be building and managing sustainable teams for medium and small scale enterprises. And then, of course, tea from 3:30 to 4, and we're done for the day. And there's dinner, but don't worry. Charles and I will be roving around through the rooms, reminding you of all of this critical information. For now, though, let's take a breather, get some tea, network, and Charles, you're going to take us through the photo session. Thank you so much.
A round of applause to our moderator, Victoria. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'll now go very fast and have a photo session, fast outside. So kindly leave the headsets behind in this room. There's other headsets in other rooms. So don't go with the headsets. The translator, don't go with them. Please leave them on the chairs. Let's all dash out, take a photo session very fast. Come for tea. Tea is only for those who have the badge access. So if you have the badge, that's on the way you'll access tea. Lunch, will be given lunch vouchers. Right? So let's quickly rush for the photo session outside, and then we'll be able to come for tea. And then, all right, so follow the gentleman there waving. So carry, you're going to carry your stuff. Please move outside. And you can leave your stuff here and then come back for it for, yeah, it's safe. It's safe. Just leave the headsets on the chairs. Asante. Those who will be here for the session of Bougainville, please, we'll be convening here. The Bougainville session will be here. The Bougainville session will be here. In case of anything, ask around. Please ask around.
Everybody pay attention. So it's a no this generation. My heart, any leader, everybody's so
Hii ni ya kitambo, si ya leo. Etita na fakti. Ayo, ulipata nini? Stats. Umekuja kama translator? What does it? As a translator. Media wapi? Kwa kweli. Bora kwa. Lazima kuwe na hii
let's put a lot of effort and it's 25 once and for all.
Walishapita majina kwani? La pita.
They say FGM is painful. This is flag for this area. Complications, urethral bomb. So this is flag.
Naweza enda kula kama utayo. Umechange, umechukua wengine.
Alongside was a box DXT. Lord God. Mama Africa, Africa unite. You know, kwa nini weusi tunapigana? Kwa nini weusi tunagombana? Kwa nini na tuko watu moja? Kwa nini siku hizi Kenya tunachukiana nini? Kwenda Tanzania wakituranagana, Uganda, Burundi tuko pamoja, lakini tunaumizana nini? Ishi na amani, tupendane kama zamani.